Episode 7, Obstáculo, which is Spanish for obstacle. A lot of sort of heavy stuff in this episode. We start with a dream sequence, which I find kind of weird. I don't know if maybe they just felt like there was a bit of a lack of action or fighting, or a bit of a lull in the sort of action or the drama in this episode, so they just had a dream sequence where Sam and Tori fight, or I don't know, maybe people just enjoyed the fights between Tori and Sam so much they decided, let's just have another one that isn't actually real, just for the hell of it. It's quite a good fight, actually, I like Tori's outfit in that. It was quite cool. And then I guess they just went really over the top in making it obvious it was a dream towards the end, with Tori sort of tormenting Sam about things that she couldn't really have known about the way Sam was thinking, and then she literally kills her at the end by sticking her head in the water. Seemed a little sort of cheesy for Cobra Kai to me. I don't know if I really cared for that. Dream sequences in general just annoy me. Sam appears to be suffering from PTSD, which I guess is kind of understandable. I got to be honest, generally speaking, over the course of the whole show, I'm not a huge fan of Sam. I think she acts the victim way too much when she is very much in the wrong as much as anyone else in a lot of the situations that she moans about. And this is another case of that, sort of. Not quite as bad as she has been in the past, but I feel like Sam needs to sort of think to herself, okay, it was kind of your fault in a way that Dimitri's arm got broken. You got to make sure that doesn't happen next time. You got to be braver. You got to go out there and try and fight them and do something about it. Don't just feel sorry for yourself. Don't just sort of mope. It's all very well sort of admitting that, you messed up, you are a coward. It's no good just simply admitting it and leaving it there. You got to do something. Which I guess is kind of the role that Daniel plays in this episode. He's got to be there for his daughter and teach her this lesson. I don't know. It's quite good the way he teaches the lesson, where we bring back one of the better scenes in Karate Kid 3. And it's just nice to see the two of them sort of bonding, I suppose, a little bit, even though Sam's sort of sulking for a large part of it. But I just feel like that's kind of a lesson that Sam should be able to figure out for herself. It seemed very sort of obvious to me. It's no good just moping about the fact that you let Dimitri's arm get broken because you were a coward. You've got to go out there, you've got to fight, you've got to do something about it. It's counterproductive to what you're trying to achieve here by just giving up karate. So yeah, it just seemed like the sort of thing I would have liked to have seen Sam figure out for herself and do something about. By comparison, you look at what Miguel's arc kind of this season has been, with him being angry at Johnny for at first kind of holding him responsible for what happened to him at the school because Johnny taught him to show mercy, and because he showed mercy to Robbie, he ended up in the hospital. But I think in time, this isn't verbalized in the show or anything, probably deliberately, I think Miguel has kind of had the chance to think about this a little bit more and realised that even though he ended up in the hospital because of what Johnny taught him, it was still the right thing to do. It doesn't always work out in real life. Doing the morally right thing doesn't always work out. The fact that it didn't work out on that particular occasion doesn't mean it was any less wrong. That's just the way things are sometimes. It's interesting, the very last scene in the episode, Miguel's standing right there, Chris is reminding him that he ended up in a coma because he showed mercy to Robbie. Miguel's kind of unfazed by it. He doesn't really say anything, but he's standing there by Johnny's side. So yeah, I would have liked, to see a bit more insight into Miguel and Johnny's relationship, why he's been able to come around more to Johnny's side after being so angry at him the first time he saw him this season. Even though it worked out so horribly for him at the school on that particular occasion, Johnny was still right in his teachings. So, Johnny has started a new dojo now. He evidently is completely skint now in terms of money, so he's having to just train outside. I don't know, is that a famous park in LA or something? I know there's a famous park in New York. Is there a famous park in LA? The sort of interesting thing is that Hawk has decided to remain loyal to Cobra Kai, despite the fact that he and Miguel are still on good terms. They're sort of slapping hands when they see each other at school, and he still sort of very much considers Miguel a friend. And he's obviously feels slightly torn between, his loyalty to Cobra Kai, not so much to Kreese, but just to the name Cobra Kai, I think. And also, his sort of friendship with Miguel, which kind of came about because of Cobra Kai, I suppose. Miguel befriended him before they were Cobra Kai students together, but they sort of properly bonded, and Hawk sort of became who he was because of Cobra Kai. And Johnny sort of points that out to him. You were a wimp. You were kind of soft when I met you. It wasn't Cobra Kai that did that. It was me. And Hawk's sort of not really seeing that at this particular point. And then we have Dimitri still being bullied by Kyler in kind of a callback to the first season. It's kind of unclear, really, as to what Hawk really thinks of that. I mean, he doesn't really comment on the fact that Kyler's bullying, his former best friend right in front of him there. This is also, a guy that he is kind of friends with now because he's also at Cobra Kai with him. He's there by his side at the park at the end of the episode, so it's very unclear at this moment where Hawk stands in terms of how he feels about the way Kyler's acting, how he feels about Chris's teachings. The one constant, I think, for Hawk at the moment is that he just wants to remain loyal to Cobra Kai, and I think he's maybe still trying to figure out exactly why that is. There's an interesting thing sort of going on with Dimitri. He's kind of trying to sort of hold his own a little bit and trying to stand up for himself, but it's kind of difficult for him to do with a broken arm, so he needs people to come and step in and kind of sort of show a little bit of sympathy for him, but at the same time, I think I would like to see him sort of deal with this a little bit himself, but what happens here is, after Kyler's bullying him and vandalising the cast on his arm, Yasmin has to come in and basically sort of just show that he's not alone, and I suppose in a way, she kind of is aware of the fact that Dimitri has desired her for a long time, and this almost sort of makes it all worth it, in a way. It's kind of the way the teenage mind works, being bullied and abused and being made completely miserable is sort of all made worth it if that girl that you like stands up for you and is on your side because of all that. I'd be interested to see what Dimitri's next line of action there. Is he going to make a move on Yasmin? Probably not. It'd be interesting, I wonder if Dimitri maybe is going to take this sort of look the wrong way and think, it's worth being abused by these bullies just if he gets Yasmin more on his side or something. I don't know. It's probably going to be played up as more of a joke that if that is what happens. I've got to be honest, I've never really been a fan of the character of Kyler. I mean, obviously I realise we're not supposed to like him, but I don't think he's a good addition to the show, is what I mean. He seems like way too generic a bully to me. Yasmin, same kind of thing, just a generic kind of popular girl. I almost assumed actually when Tori showed up in season 2 with Yasmin not being in the show for that season, that she was kind of taking Yasmin's place in that kind of role. But now Yasmin's back, and I don't know, maybe we're going to see a scene between the two of them together, although Tori doesn't go to that school anymore, so it's unlikely. Speaking of Tori, she is only in one other scene outside of the dream sequence at the beginning, and she doesn't have any lines in that scene, so didn't really have anything to do of any note in that episode. I'm trying to think actually if anything else really happens. We don't see Robbie at all. Miguel's walking again. That was something at the start of the episode. It looks like we're going to have Miguel just walking around normally for nearly half the season, which is fair enough, I would think. It's not dragging it out for too long, but it's not so quick that it's unrealistic. It's about half the season. I think that's probably about right. Yeah, I think that's about it. I thought I had a lot more to say about this episode, but there's a lot of sort of interesting sort of character stuff in this episode, but the story kind of takes sort of a bit of a hold. I mean, I suppose there's a little bit of progression with Johnny starting his new dojo called Eagle Fang Karate. I wonder how long the writers worked on that, because obviously the idea with it is supposed to be an attempt to sound badass, but at the same time it sounds kind of weird. The same kind of logic as Cobra Kai, in that it's a badass animal, I don't know, just a cool random sounding word. But because the word is English, you kind of don't hear a cool sounding word, you just hear what the word actually means. And, Eagle Fang, you put those two together and try to put some kind of mental image in there. Whereas Cobra Kai, you don't think of a cobra, and then, I don't even know what Kai means, to be honest. I know it's a Japanese word. So you just hear a cool sounding word, because it's not English. This word, if you'd chosen a Japanese word, it probably would have worked. What's the Japanese word for fang? Maybe that would have worked. They only have t-shirts at the moment, no gis, so that's a shame. But possibly we will see this progress at some point. I'm guessing he's going to change the name, because that is kind of a weird, stupid-sounding name. Can you imagine if they changed the name of the show to Eagle Fang? Actually, that's another point. Cobra Kai are definitely being played up as the bad guys now, and yet the show's called Cobra Kai. That can't be right, so something's probably going to happen with that as well. But yeah, the definite MVP of this episode was definitely Daniel. Getting Sam to come round to what seemed like kind of an obvious way of thinking to me, which is like, it's no good just moping around and giving up on karate just because, you're feeling sorry for yourself. You've got to do something about it. Well played, Daniel. That's that, guys. And I will see you for the next episode.